Hey everybody, it's Simon Sparrow. Welcome back to some Revolution Custom Standard coverage. We've got two players here facing off with new cards. It's a new season. We are days away from the next Grand Prix, and it is my pleasure to bring you some league coverage today. Um, yeah, we're all good. What is it? It's a shame commentary missed this. I mean, we didn't miss it. We're right here. Looks like we got two 20s, two 16s, and then finally a 16 taking it off. We got you covered. We were paying attention. So let's look at what we got. Fair warning, relatively new to the Revolution Custom Standard metagame as of this month. Normally you can find me making MSCM content, but right now Revolution is popping off, and I am more than happy to bring you coverage of this sister format, essentially. It's just been really nice getting a chance to play with a smaller card pool, but like plenty of new sets. So I can just let our players know that I'm already recording. There we go. They can fire off. So let's check out what we got over here in Red Panda's hand. We've got Gleaming Hot Springs. Looks to be like a pretty cool card. Enters tap unless you control a mountain. So kind of a slower tap land, but looking what we've got in the hand, looks like we're going to need a lot of colors to bring out cards like Teshima, Living Balance here. Let's see if I can make this just a smidge bigger for all of you. We've got cards like Survivors of the New World. Of course, feel free to pause at any time to look at the cards in hand. We've got cards like Ley Shard, which are fantastic at fixing around. We've got Screeching Grauku, we've got Flags on High, and we've got Abominable Avalanche. Looks like we're putting out a lot of small things here when I'm looking at Screeching and Flags on High, making 1/1 colorless soldiers, and then those creatures with base power 1 or less also get +1/+0. There's some cool stuff happening here. Teshima also creating a lot of 1/1s, and it being a 1/4 by itself, and Survivors just making tons of copies of itself. This is a really interesting build, and Abominable Avalanche is just, a fantastic piece of removal. You're looking at it with the foil version opened as a promo card. Over here on this side, this looks to be the Rib Collector deck. I don't know if there's a better name for it at the moment. I haven't actually had a chance to check that out. But Rib Collector, quite good. When it enters, if a creature has died, you get to return another creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Also got cards like Final Fate as removal. The flashback here is quite cool. Fabricated Anomaly, new card added thanks to the World Championship here. And one from last season, Calamity Cat, does some really cool stuff, and a new card from this season, we've got a Shigane Manor Burns, which kind of loops itself around with the Time Loop Saga, giving you treasures, cards, and damage. So we're already just a few turns in just by breezing over the cards in the hands. Hopefully you had a chance to pause at the right time, but looks like we are already getting Teshima Living Balance over here on turn 3. That Ley Shard was able to ramp a turn earlier, produces all these 1/1 white monks, and whenever Teshima attacks, you get to put X +1/+1 counters on each other creature you control, where X is Teshima's power. The fact that the Screeching Grauko only cares about base power 1 or less is fantastic. So even though they're going to grow, the base power means that they are going to get that buff. So looks like we're cracking everything here, including the treasure to play Final Fate. Or will be destroying a creature if its mana value is less than or equal to the amount of mana spent. We've spent 4 mana, so that's enough to get rid of Teshima. The 1/1s are going to stick on the board, though. I'm going to be able to keep applying pressure, especially with what we've got in the hand here. Second copy of Survivors of the New World, though unless we see a land here, well, speak and you shall receive. We'll be able to play out some of those, but, otherwise, the alternatives were still pretty fine with cards like Screeching Grauku here. The next thing you'll know, someone's going to tell me it's pronounced differently, but, when I see Grau and I see Oo, I pronounce it Grauku. There we go. Post-combat Survivors of the New World. Because it's not a token, when it enters, you create 2 tokens that are copies of it, so you get 3 1/1s. And when it dies, you reveal cards on the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. It goes to your hand, the rest on the bottom. So essentially, each one of these that dies just, fuels you like crazy. There's another one in the hand. We're not going to run out of cards on this side. Are going down to 12 life. Shigane Manor Burns is going to happily start looping in and out. Panic is a great card here. Part of a new series of cards from Airs in the Weft. Panic is a subroutine. That doesn't look like that's what's coming out this turn because Baron Ashlands was tapped. But, Fabricated Anomaly is pretty cool. Panic, when it enters, you get to discard a card. When you do, it deals 4 damage to a creature or planeswalker. And when the subroutine runs, you get a 4/4 error with Menace. So subroutines work a lot like sort of a black border version of contraptions from Unstable, I believe. You essentially put them into your program, and that starts rolling around as long as you have subroutines. So pretty cool stuff. Fabricated Anomaly doesn't last very long, so not going to be able to keep putting +1/+1 counters on stuff, but the ETB is quite good, giving you a puzzle box. So, for the rest of the game, you have tap, discard a card, draw a card. So, really good token artifact, honestly, to have lying around here. But there's the Screeching Growlku coming out here, going to give +1/+0 to the entire board. That's a lot of 2/1s. Keeping the monks back, never mind. They've got Vigilance. They're going in as well. Calamity Cat is going to soak up one of them, but that's still, 10 points of damage. So farewell, Shiny Calamity Cat. You did your best. Let's see what happens now. We're going to use the puzzle box to cycle around. Going to try and find something else. Shigane is going to give us a tapped treasure token. We've got 4 mana to play with. We can keep digging for something else. The big issue here is you definitely want to get rid of Growlku, right? So I would imagine Panic, pitching a card, getting rid of Growlku does quite a bit in terms of reducing the sheer amount of damage. And the problem is that it's at your first main phase, right? So you're not going to get the 4/4 this turn, I believe. So you're only going to get it next turn. So it's on A. So that's the first one that's going to fire. It would be program A, then B, then C, and then it loops back again to A. There's some tokens that come with these cards, but if you just put A, it's a lot easier. Looks like we have missed a Abominable Avalanche trigger here, because if you spend at least 5 mana to cast spells this turn, you get to exile it and get a 3/3 green Yeti with Trample. Could make a difference. I mean, it is a big body, but Flags on High is just pretty much what you need. You get 2 1/1s, and you can sacrifice it to give +1/+0 in haste. So honestly, pretty strong card. Pretty wide board here on that side. It's going to be interesting to see how sideboards can deal with it. So while our players look into that, we are going to pause a little bit, and we'll be back as soon as the next match is ready to start. All right, looks like our players are back and ready. We had a bit of a flickering issue here with one of our players, but it looks like everything's nice and locked in. So let's see what we got. 2 lands here. We got Flags on High, Shigane, Mana Burns. Oh, both sides of the field are playing that card. Not too surprising. The card just does a lot. Punishment from Nyx, kind of a 1 mana burn spell of choice here. 2 damage does do a little bit. And then, yeah, Abominable Avalanche. We saw how good that was the last match. Missed the trigger, but I mean, if we don't keep an eye on it, it'll be fine. So Urban Jungle, choosing to enter it tapped. No 1 mana play except for punishment, but would rather, not take the 2 damage and just get a little bit more life here against a player who's on sort of a black-red deck. So it looks like we've got a turn 2 Shigane Mana Burns here for AllWhoWanders, and let's see what that is followed up with. It's going to be a Primal Fissure. I'm going to be cracked. This fetch land is fantastic. Enters tapped only after you control, it's enters tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. So, just does a lot. So, looks like there was a Shigane Mana Burns trigger that was missed, but that's okay. Here's one as well. Both players get tap treasures. So a little bit of a mirror match going on here. Let's just see if they decide to keep running out Shigane Mana Burns, which would be kind of funny, or we're going to start moving into some of the more controlling elements of this black-red deck with cards like Exorcist of Errors or Lurking. Chronicle is going to come in a little later. So discard a card, exile the top 2. You can play one of them this turn. That's super cool. Okay, so yeah, Exorcist of Errors coming out. This card is really strong. It's a 2/3 for 2, and we'll take one of the better cards from the opponent's hand. Like, yes, the opponent has to play a little bit of a fact or fiction. They're going to reveal a certain amount of cards. They're going to keep the rest hidden in their hand, and then the player who played Exorcist of Errors is going to pick one of those piles, and we'll get rid of one of those cards. So Thankfully, it's exiled until the creature leaves the battlefield, so it's not like you're discarding it. So there we go. Giving up a lot of information, but also keeping a flags on high and a swift. And yeah, always good to wait till your opponent has fully decided, okay, yeah, this is the split. So yeah, it's really interesting. You know, the opponent doesn't know that there's a flags or swift approach. There's only 2 cards, but often, you know, I feel like players tend to hide stuff that's good in the hand. So like swift approach, flags on high, it's really only one of the other 2. There still is a flags on the side here. I imagine, given the fact that you've got a Chronicle of Extinction, you can probably let the flags run and just take out Swift Reproach, since Swift immediately can get rid of Exorcist of Errors. So yeah, okay, there's Reproach, like I thought. I think that makes the most sense. You're going to have a basic land anyway for the following turn for your Chronicle of Extinction. And the -2/-2 of note does not blow up your own Exorcist of Errors. There we go. Flag reveal, hand revealed. And yeah. Lots of good cards here. Gonna pay the 2. Yeah, so Lurking Vrykalakas is quite good. It's already a 2/2 as a base, and whenever it attacks, you can exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a non-land, you get a counter. If it was a land, it gains lifelink. So once it's a 3/3 or a 4/4, you know, you can start chaining that up into some pretty big life gain swings. So card is definitely fantastic. All right, so now it's time for Shigane Manor Burns #2 to do its thing. There we go. Drew into a second copy of Swift Reproach is quite interesting. I imagine... I was going to say Abominable Avalanche, but it is 3 points of damage, which is currently relevant. So, okay, so we pitched the flags on high, played out the island, and the Ley Shard stays exiled. So, there we go. Plenty of colors here. Using the lovely GQ Chaos Reigns versions, by the way. So if you're a big fan of Pokemon, there's a amazing Pokemon themed set in the format. The original having been in the original release, I believe, but you know, it's been quite a bit of time. Punishment from Nyx coming out. Going to pop the Vrykalakas before I can grow bigger. That's a really smart decision. And yeah, tap treasure from a second Shigane Manor, and Swift Reproach can still hold off, and haven't spread herself wide with flags, so Chronicle of Extinction doesn't currently have a target. Panic of note also doesn't really have a target for a creature or planeswalker, so probably doesn't feel ideal to be dropping it here, but at the same time, you know, a 4/4 red menace, quite good, so maybe we just go for it. Yeah, that's what I figured. So at least you don't have to discard a card, so it's a May. So we're just going to set it on A, and then the next time that AllWhoWander hits a main phase, Panic is simply going to trigger, and we're going to get a 4/4 error creature token with Menace, and then that will happen again 3 turns later. So yeah, this just goes to show, you know, Shigane Manor Burns... okay, yeah, players are just discussing how the routines are going to work. Looks like, you know, Shigane's already at 3, it dealt to 2 damage. Like, these just, you know, keep looping so well. You really got to drop them early. I mean, it's not a great top deck, I would say, in the late game, but early game and into the mid game, treasures, cards, damage, you just leave it alone. And if your opponent's not doing anything to it and you can hold off and you're not being, like, super aggroed, yeah, there's a lot of value that can come out of these cards. Decision, though, this one's on 2. If there's anything in hand that you want to pitch, again, Abominable Avalanche is a reasonable card to keep around. You know there's going to be a 4/4, so maybe you want to keep 3 damage for Exorcist and then Swift Reproach. So, because you could Swift Reproach into Swift Reproach, but, you know. You still have to spend at least 5 mana to cast spells this turn, so... Abominable Avalanche, you know, followed up by a 2 mana spell does the trick. So, yeah, some tough choices here for players. A lot of decisions to make. Didn't quite get the super wide board that we were used to seeing on the previous game, that's for sure. So this is definitely a little more of a long-term goal here. I mean, yeah, being clocked by 2 every turn is not great, but okay. Okay, it looks like we cycled out that Swift Reproach. Draw these 2 cards. That's quite nice. Wind Beaten is fine. But if you play the one from hand, yeah, you get to play out your Ardor, Forefront of Freedom. Fantastic card. So 3/3 Menace. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 haste and have to attack each turn if able. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you get a 1/1 red soldier creature token, and it will get +1/+1 haste and has to attack each turn if able. So yeah, that's a good bit of pressure here. We're gonna trigger. I think this one is back to a tap token, I believe. And I believe it's always draw, time loop, and then subroutine, I think is the order that we have to do this. Somebody please correct me in the comments if I am totally wrong on this. I imagine we're getting the error. Okay, there it is. Lovely piece of art. Wouldn't want to meet that on a deserted street, that's for sure. So doesn't have haste, but you know, 4/4 is pretty big. Obviously, with the treasure in here, we can Abominable Avalanche, pick up the Swift Reproach, and then Swift Reproach the error if we really need to. Though on this side, Chronicle of Extinction fails to hit Ardor, so it doesn't feel too great against the Red Soldier. That's true. Always gets +1. That's such an easy Chronicle of Extinction read, I think. I think you just let the 2 damage through. You don't want to chump the 3/3 into the 2/3 and then get chronicled. So, and the fact that it's all creatures get -2/-2, yeah, that's all right. Backup play of playing the second Lurking is totally fine. Okay, manners are at 1 and 3, so 2 damage to each opponent, and we're back to... Or was this one already at 1? Hold up, let's just find out. Yeah, okay, sorry. This one's going to 1, treasure token. So it was 2 damage and then 1. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So there it is. Abominable Avalanche pops the Exorcist. Swift Reproach is now back in the hand. You've got the mana to play it with the treasure in the island if you really need to. There it is. Okay, so pretty much the read that we had here. The one thing about using removal in these 4/4s is you know that in, 3 more turns, you're just going to have to deal with it again. So better putting a lot of pressure here, and that is what's going on, right? 3/3s, 2/2s. That is a lot of pressure. Your Lurking Vrykalakas doesn't want to trade into these 2/2s, and you definitely don't want to just block a 3/3. Use 5 mana, so here's a 4/4 Yeti coming out on the field. Doesn't have to attack this turn because it appeared after the combat, which is great. That's exactly what you kind of want. Shigane gets to the second loyalty, second lore counter. My gosh, all these counter names. Looks like we've got a Swamp or a Catabolist. Catabolist is a pretty good recurring creature as a 3/1, but only if a card left your graveyard. I do like the fact that when it dies, obviously, it creates a black subroutine. That's quite cool. Lurking is going to pick out a Fisher, so it's going to gain lifelink. I mean, again, that's asking the Green Yeti to block, right? Because if you block and then you sweep, you're losing a lot. But if you're just taking 2 damage here, that Chronicle of Extinction isn't really cleaning up too much, and you still have 7 power on board. Then you're gonna get 8, 9. Okay, well, looks like we went for it. 2 damage, gains 2 life. Lurking dies. Chronicle of Extinction means that we're gonna be able to sweep up these 2/2s and the 4/4. Thankfully, Ardor survives, so still has some pressure here in the tank. Ardor is going to make another 2/2, so that's going to be 5. Could be 6, 7, 8. I think we're just going to be short a damage. Oh, no, wait. Teshima top deck is huge here. Yeah. Teshima top deck is huge. There's, plenty of haste damage here and the bodies that you needed. So yeah, wow. This the whiteboard's doing great. The problem is, I think, with Chronicle is that -2/-2 does a lot, but you have to get to 4 mana, and by that point, your opponent can like rebuild. Like, look how fast that rebuild was there. There just really wasn't any room, especially with the life total so low. So wonder if there's room for some -1/-1 sweeps around in the format. But anyway, some great games played. Glad to have been able to catch it. And hopefully you stick around for some more Revolution Custom Standard content. That would be my goal for this month and the coming months, to put out a little bit of Rev content every week. And hopefully you enjoy it. So take care, and hopefully we see you in the Grand Prix.